Imagine this. You're sitting across from him. The world feels a little quieter, a little slower. He's talking maybe about work or a random story from his day, but you're barely hearing the words. Because something about him feels different right now. His eyes are locked on you a second too long. His voice drops just a little lower. There's a shift. You can feel it, that unspoken current in the air. Now here's what most women miss. That moment isn't about the way you look, or what you're wearing, or how perfect your hair is. It's about something much deeper. It's about the way you say something, the way your words slip under his skin without you even trying, the way a single sentence said in the right tone with the right emotion can change everything. Because attraction, it's not built on surface sparks. It's built on emotional electricity, the kind that hits him before he even realizes what's happening. And when you know what to say, when you understand what really moves him, that's when you stop being another woman he talks to and start being the one he can't stop thinking about. Most women have no clue that the most powerful thing they can do isn't about being more beautiful or more mysterious. It's about knowing how to connect in a way that makes him feel seen, understood, and desired all at once. That's the real secret, the one that makes him melt without you even touching him. So tonight, we're not talking about games, manipulation, or tricks. We're talking about truth, the kind that wakes something up inside him. Because when you say this, when you speak to him in a way that reaches the place he never shows the world, he's hooked. Not because you chased him, not because you tried harder, but because for the first time, he feels something real. And that's where everything begins. He might never say it out loud, but every man has a quiet craving, one that runs far deeper than attraction, deeper than lust, deeper than anything he can easily explain. It's the craving to exhale, to feel safe, to drop the armor he wears every single day, the armor that tells the world he's strong, confident, in control, untouchable. Because most men spend their lives pretending they don't need safety. They act like nothing gets to them. But inside, they're human. And just like everyone else, they ache to be understood. When a man meets a woman who makes him feel that safety, that calmness, something inside him shifts instantly. It's like his body recognizes it before his mind does. Suddenly, he's not performing anymore. He's not trying to impress, to win, to prove anything. He just is. And that feeling, that rare sense of peace, is what actually makes him feel drawn, even addicted. You see, attraction isn't just about the spark, it's about the space that spark lives in. Most people chase chemistry, but chemistry without comfort burns out fast. When you're around someone who makes you feel like you can finally breathe, you don't forget it. And that's what happens when a woman creates emotional safety. She becomes the place he can land, the one he can be real with. Think about how most interactions go. The world tells men to always be strong, to hold their feelings tight and never show weakness. So when he's around someone who judges, criticizes, or compares, his walls go up. But when he's around someone who listens without rushing to fix him, who hears him instead of analyzing him, those walls quietly fall away. And that's when real attraction begins. Not because she's trying, but because he feels safe enough to stop trying. That's what emotional safety does. It changes the energy in the room. It's not about being overly soft or endlessly agreeing. It's about being emotionally grounded. It's the way you look at him when he talks about something that matters. The way you hold eye contact and let silence linger just a moment longer than usual. It's the way you say, "That must have been hard," instead of, "You should have done this." Those tiny, almost invisible choices tell his nervous system, you can relax here. And that's the key. Men fall for the feeling they get when they're around you. When he feels calm, when his guard drops, when he feels like he can say the wrong thing and you won't punish him for it. That's when desire starts to deepen. Because in a world that constantly asks him to perform, your presence becomes a relief. He doesn't need to pretend. And once he experiences that kind of peace, he'll do anything to keep it. This is what most people misunderstand. They think making him want you means being exciting, unpredictable, or endlessly perfect. But the truth, the most magnetic energy is comfort with depth. when you are emotionally steady, when you don't react to every little thing with insecurity or accusation, he begins to associate you with emotional ease. That's the beginning of real intimacy. Imagine he's telling you about something stressful, a bad day, a failure, a mistake. Most people jump in to judge, joke, or fix. But you listen. You tilt your head slightly, your voice stays calm. You might say, "That sounds rough. I get why you'd feel that way." No solution, no performance, just presence. Do you realize what that does to him? It lets him step into a part of himself he rarely gets to show. It tells him, without words, you don't have to be perfect here. And the truth is, that's more seductive than any compliment. Because when a man feels safe, he feels closer. When he feels closer, he opens up. And when he opens up, the energy between you becomes charged, not with pressure, but with trust. And trust is what allows attraction to expand. Now, emotional safety isn't about shrinking yourself or always being gentle. It's about owning your energy. You don't have to fix his problems or mother him. That's not safety, that's control. True safety is when you hold space for him to be fully himself, even when he's messy. When you trust him enough to handle his emotions without trying to rescue him. That's what builds quiet respect. And respect, in turn, creates attraction that lasts. So, how do you create that safety in your words? You choose connection over correction, curiosity over criticism. When he opens up, you don't meet him with judgment. You meet him with understanding. You don't use his vulnerability as leverage later. You make him feel that his honesty is valued, not punished. And that's what keeps him coming back. Not because he needs your approval, but because he feels something rarer peace and desire existing together. Because here's the secret. When a man feels emotionally safe, his desire doesn't fade. It deepens. He stops chasing external excitement and starts craving emotional connection. He starts associating you with the best version of himself, the version that feels calm, capable, seen. And that's the version he wants to be around. In a world where everyone's trying to impress everyone else, being the person who gives peace is powerful. It's unforgettable. You become his home, not his escape. You become the one person he can't stop thinking about, not because you said the right line, but because you made him feel right. And once a man feels that kind of emotional safety with you, once his soul exhales in your presence, no other connection feels the same. He won't always know how to describe it, but he'll feel it in his body, in his heart, in the quiet moments when he thinks about you. That's what truly pulls him in. That's what makes him melt, not your perfection, not your performance, but your peace. Because the truth is simple. The sexiest thing in the world isn't mystery or looks or clever words. It's the space where someone feels safe enough to be real. That's what lights him up from the inside. That's what makes him want to come closer. And that is where desire begins. He doesn't want to be worshipped. Not really. What he wants, what every man quietly hopes for, is to be seen. To have someone look past the surface of what he does and notice the fire underneath it. Because every man has a drive, something that pushes him, something that defines how he shows up in the world. But most people never speak to that part of him. They talk to his ego. They compliment what's visible. They admire the results. Yet they never touch the place those things come from. And that's where the real magic lies. Not in praising his achievements, but in connecting to his purpose. When you speak to his drive, you're speaking to the part of him that he doesn't even show most people. The part that wants to matter, to make something of himself, to feel like his life has meaning. You're speaking to his why. And when someone touches that, when someone reminds him of who he's trying to become, it changes everything. Think about it. Most men live in a world that constantly asks them to perform, to win, to provide, to stay strong no matter how tired they are. And in all that noise, they rarely hear the kind of words that make them feel inspired again. Words that remind them that what they're doing has value beyond success. Most people feed their ego. They say things like, "You're so amazing. You're so handsome. You're so talented." And sure, those things feel nice for a moment, but they don't last because the ego is hungry. It always needs more. But when you speak to his drive, When you look him in the eye and say, "I love how you always find a way," or "I can see how much you care about what you do," something deeper happens. His posture changes. His eyes soften. He doesn't just feel admired, he feels understood, because you've recognized the truth he lives by, not the image he wears. The difference might seem small, but it's everything. Speaking to his ego makes him feel seen on the surface. Speaking to his drive makes him feel seen at his core. It's the difference between "you're so confident" and "I love how you keep showing up, even when things get tough." One scratches the surface, the other touches his soul. And here's the thing. Men remember how you make them feel about themselves. They remember who they were when they were around you. If you make him feel like his life has purpose, like what he does matters, he starts to associate you with that feeling. You become a mirror reflecting his best self back to him. That's the kind of energy that pulls him in and keeps him there. Not because you're inflating his ego, but because you're awakening his passion. This is where so many people go wrong. They think attraction is about praise, about giving constant validation. But too much validation feels empty when it doesn't connect to something real. You don't have to flatter him. You don't have to agree with everything he says. You just have to see him. And seeing him means noticing his effort, his focus, his discipline, his intention. When you tell him, "I love the way you think," or "I like how you handle things calmly," or even "you have this energy that makes people trust you," you're not feeding his pride. You're acknowledging his presence. You're showing him that you notice more than most people ever bother to. And that creates emotional attraction on a completely different level. Because at his core, every man is still that little boy who once wanted to make his parents proud, who wanted to be good enough, strong enough, capable enough. That drive never disappears. It just evolves. So when you speak to the man he's become while honoring the part of him that's still striving, you bridge the two. You make him feel both respected and safe. A rare combination that melts even the strongest exterior. It's not about manipulation. It's about awareness, about learning to communicate in a way that nurtures his essence, not just his image. You can tell when a woman speaks to a man's ego. He stands taller, smiles wider, but there's a performance in it. You can also tell when she speaks to his drive. He exhales, his eyes soften, and for a moment, he's not performing. He's present. Here's the quiet truth. Men don't fall for the loudest woman in the room. They fall for the one who makes them feel grounded in who they are, the one who makes them want to be better. Not because she demands it, but because she believes in it. You can tell him he's attractive, but if you tell him, "I respect how hard you work for the things you care about," that hits differently. It lands in his chest. It stays there. And that's because the male heart, though it hides behind layers of logic and pride, is deeply responsive to recognition. Real recognition, not attention, not approval. But that moment when someone says, "I see what you're doing and I get why it matters," those words go straight past his defenses. So when you talk to him, slow down. Don't rush to impress or to be impressive. Ask him about what drives him, what makes him wake up in the morning, what he's building toward, what he's proud of. Then listen. Really listen. Because in those moments, you're not just talking, you're connecting to the rhythm of his life. And when a woman can match that rhythm, everything changes. He'll start to open up differently. His tone will shift. His eyes will linger longer. Because he'll start associating you with peace and purpose, not pressure or performance. That's what speaking to his drive does. It creates connection rooted in inspiration, not validation. And when a man feels inspired around you, when he feels like he's growing just by being near you, his attraction doesn't fade. It expands. He doesn't just want your attention, he wants your presence. He starts to crave conversations with you the way he craves his next goal. Because you're no longer just someone who makes him feel good. You're someone who reminds him who he is. That's the difference between temporary chemistry and lasting connection. One fades when the moment passes, the other grows every time you speak. So don't speak to his ego. Anyone can do that. Speak to his drive. Speak to the part of him that's hungry for meaning, that wants to be seen, not for what he's done, but for why he does it. Because once you reach that place, you're no longer just another voice in the crowd. You're the echo that stays with him long after you've gone. Would you like me to continue with the next section? Mystery isn't distance. It's confidence. Written in the same cinematic, emotionally charged storytelling tone vulnerability. It's the word that makes most people uncomfortable, even though it's the very thing everyone craves. Because being vulnerable feels risky. It feels like taking off your armor in a world that celebrates control. It feels like standing in front of someone emotionally naked and saying, "This is me. No filters, no walls, no pretending." And yet, that's exactly where real connection begins. Not in perfection, not in performance, but in truth. There's a certain beauty in vulnerability that no amount of confidence can replicate. Confidence draws people in, but vulnerability keeps them there. Because it's in those unguarded moments, the quiet pauses between words, the soft cracks in your voice, where authenticity lives. And authenticity is magnetic. It's the one thing that makes someone stop, look closer, and say, "She's real." Most people think they have to be flawless to be loved. They think if they show their cracks, their fears, their insecurities, they'll be judged or abandoned. But the truth is, pretending to be perfect creates distance. It's exhausting. It builds walls so high that no one can see who you really are. Vulnerability, on the other hand, invites closeness. It says, "I trust you enough to show you who I really am." And that kind of trust is intoxicating. When you open up to a man, not in desperation, not in drama, but in quiet honesty, you create a space that feels safe. You tell him, without words, you don't have to be perfect here either. And in that moment, something powerful happens. He exhales, his guard drops, he feels seen in a way he rarely does, because your vulnerability gives him permission to be human too. You see, men are taught to be strong, to hide emotion, to stay in control. They don't often get the chance to just feel. But when you show your softness, when you say something like, "That really hurt me," or "Sometimes I get scared too," or even, "I don't have all the answers, but I care," it disarms him. It shifts the dynamic from a performance to a partnership. Suddenly, it's not about who's winning, who's in control, who's more confident. It's about truth meeting truth. That's what vulnerability does. It transforms attraction into intimacy. It bridges the gap between two people and turns chemistry into connection. It turns moments into memories and conversations into emotional depth. Because when you're brave enough to be real, you invite him to do the same. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's courage disguised as softness. It's the strength to let someone see the parts of you that aren't polished. It's saying, "I'm not perfect, but I'm present," and that presence is far more powerful than perfection ever could be. Imagine this. You're talking to him, and the conversation shifts to something real. Maybe you're telling a story about a time you failed or a fear you're working through. You're not trying to sound impressive. You're just being honest. Your voice softens, your eyes hold his for a little longer. In that space, something changes. The energy becomes heavier, not in a bad way, but in a grounded, intimate way, because vulnerability slows things down. It takes the noise out of the moment and replaces it with meaning. He feels it. The sincerity, the honesty, the courage. It's not something you can fake. And what he feels in that moment isn't petty or sympathy. It's admiration, respect, desire. Because true vulnerability is deeply attractive. It tells him that you're emotionally aware, that you trust yourself enough to be open. It tells him you're not hiding behind walls. You're living in truth. Most women think that showing vulnerability means losing power, but it's the opposite. When you open up, you're not giving your power away, you're expanding it. You're showing that you're strong enough to feel without breaking, that you can stand in the messiness of emotion and not run from it. That's real strength. That's what makes you unforgettable. Because anyone can act confident, anyone can look composed, but not everyone can stay open. Not everyone can look someone in the eye and say, "This is what's really going on for me," without hiding behind sarcasm or distraction. And when you can do that, you create emotional gravity. You become a mirror that reflects truth, and truth is irresistible. Vulnerability also creates balance. It softens confidence so it doesn't become arrogance. It brings warmth to mystery so it doesn't become cold. It gives depth to beauty so it doesn't stay on the surface. It's the secret ingredient that turns strong energy into soulful energy. Without vulnerability, confidence can feel intimidating. With it, confidence feels inviting. The most powerful women are not the ones who never cry or never doubt themselves. They're the ones who can admit, yes, I've been hurt. Yes, I've fallen, but I still choose to love, to trust, to try again. That kind of resilience is hypnotic. It tells the world, you can't break me. I bend, I feel, I heal. And when a man sees that in you, it changes the way he connects. He's not just drawn to your beauty or your confidence. He's drawn to your depth. He starts to realize that being around you doesn't just make him feel desired, it makes him feel alive. Because your vulnerability reminds him that he's allowed to be human too. That's why some people leave an impact long after they're gone. Because they showed you something real. They didn't hide behind perfect smiles or clever words. They let you see their heart raw and unguarded. And that's what stays with you, not the image, but the emotion. So if you want to build a connection that lasts, stop trying to be invincible. Let yourself be real. Let yourself be soft where it matters. Speak from the heart even when it trembles, because vulnerability doesn't make you weaker in his eyes. It makes you unforgettable. It's the thing that transforms attraction into attachment and curiosity into care. You don't have to share everything all at once. Vulnerability isn't about oversharing. It's about meaningful sharing. It's about letting people see what's true, not what's perfect. It's about opening the door just enough to let someone feel your humanity. And the beautiful thing is, when you lead with vulnerability, you teach others to meet you there. You create relationships built on openness instead of guessing, on truth instead of pretense. You create love that feels safe and alive at the same time, because when you strip away the layers, the masks, the roles, the expectations, what's left is connection, raw, real, and rare. And that's what vulnerability gives you, not control, not certainty, but closeness. The kind that can't be faked. The kind that makes two people stop pretending and start truly seeing each other. So no, vulnerability isn't weakness. It's your quiet superpower. It's what makes you human. It's what makes you seen. It's what turns moments into meaning and words into warmth. And when you can stand in that kind of truth without fear, without armor, that's when you stop chasing love and start attracting it naturally. Would you like me to continue with the next part? Words that create desire speak to his emotions, not his logic. In the same cinematic, emotionally intimate tone words have power, not just the kind that fill silence, but the kind that reach beneath the surface. That touched something inside him he didn't even know was waiting to be touched. Because here's the truth. Men may act like they're logical, like they're ruled by reason, like they're driven by facts and decisions. But when it comes to attraction, when it comes to connection, they fall for what they feel, not what they think. Desire doesn't begin in his head, it begins in his heart. And the words that create that kind of desire don't appeal to logic. They awaken emotion. Think about it. Logic convinces, but emotion moves. Logic might make someone understand you, but emotion makes them feel you. When you speak to a man's emotions, you bypass his guard. You go straight past his defenses and into the part of him that craves connection, safety, and depth. And when that happens, desire isn't just physical anymore. It's emotional, magnetic, and lasting. Most people don't realize how easily words can build or break attraction. We often say too much or say it the wrong way, focusing on the literal meaning instead of the feeling behind it. But when you learn to speak in a way that stirs emotion, gently, intentionally, authentically, everything changes. Suddenly, it's not just a conversation anymore, it's an experience. It's not just words, it's energy. Here's what that looks like. Instead of saying, "You're nice to talk to," you say, "I don't know what it is about you, but every time we talk, I feel calmer." Do you feel the difference? The first is polite. The second is emotional. It gives him a feeling to associate with you. It paints a picture. It connects to his senses, to something deeper than logic ever could. When you say something like, There's something about your voice that just slows me down. Or, I like the way you make me feel safe without even trying. You're not flattering him. You're creating emotional resonance. You're making him feel something in his body. That's where real desire begins. Not in words themselves, but in how those words make him feel about himself when he's with you. Men remember feelings, not phrases. They may forget what you said, but they'll never forget how your words made them feel. That's why the most powerful language isn't complicated or poetic. It's honest, it's slow, intentional, and filled with presence. It's the kind of language that makes the moment feel alive. Desire grows in the spaces between words. It's in the pauses, the tone, the softness of your delivery. You don't have to talk constantly. Sometimes silence, followed by the right sentence, can do more than an entire speech. Because emotion doesn't just come from words, it comes from energy, the energy of ease, of warmth, of awareness. When you're speaking to his emotions, your goal isn't to impress, it's to connect. It's not about saying the perfect thing, it's about saying the real thing. If you're feeling something, express it with sincerity. Say, I like this, I missed that. That makes me smile, or you make me feel safe. Those are simple words, but they carry an emotional truth that lands deeply. The mistake many people make is trying to be too logical, too careful, too measured, too safe. They think vulnerability will make them weak, so they hide behind humor or logic or playfulness. But logic can't create desire. It can only explain it after it's already there. Emotion is what lights the fire in the first place, and speaking to his emotions doesn't mean manipulating him. It means allowing him to feel. It means creating moments that remind him he's human, not a machine. That it's okay to feel calm, or connected, or even a little off balance when he's around you. You're not trying to control his feelings. You're awakening them. So how do you do it? You start by being present. You listen to him, really listen. And you respond not to the words, but to the feeling underneath them. If he's talking about his day, don't just say, that sounds busy. Say, that must have been a lot to carry. I get why you'd be tired. That shows empathy, not analysis. It speaks to his emotional world, not just his schedule. Or if he's passionate about something, his work a dream, a goal. Don't just say, that's cool. Say, I love how your eyes light up when you talk about that. You're not just acknowledging what he said, you're acknowledging how it feels when he says it. That's what pulls him closer. When you start speaking like this, you'll notice how the energy shifts, his tone softens, his attention sharpens, he leans in a little closer. Because what you're doing is rare, you're giving him emotional depth without pressure, warmth without expectation. You're speaking to the part of him that's been starved of connection in a world obsessed with performance. And here's what's even more powerful. When you speak to a man's emotions, you make him feel safe enough to access his own. That's when you start to see the real him. Not the version the world sees, but the one that laughs freely, shares more, opens up. You awaken something in him that he didn't even realize was asleep. Emotion is what builds anticipation. It's what turns curiosity into chemistry. It's what makes a glance linger and a goodbye feel heavier than it should. Because emotional connection is the foundation of every kind of attraction, physical, mental, spiritual. When you master the art of emotional language, you're no longer chasing his attention, you're holding it effortlessly. So speak to his emotions through imagery, through tone, through presence. Let your words carry warmth, not control. Let them reveal how you feel, not just what you think. Because when your energy aligns with your honesty, your voice becomes a feeling he can't shake. And the truth is, the most powerful words are often the simplest ones. I love how you make me feel. You have this calm that I really like. I'm glad you're here. Those aren't just sentences. They're invitations. They tell him you're safe to feel here. And when a man feels emotionally seen, his desire doesn't just grow, it deepens. So stop trying to convince him with logic. Stop trying to make sense of attraction.